Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Oops, a little bit of an echo. Hello, everybody. Happy Monday evening to everybody. My name is Mike Murphy. Thank you for joining me tonight. If you are joining me live, welcome. If you are watching the replay, well, thank you for stopping by. I do a live stream every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. I have missed the past 2 weeks due to traveling. So I got back from traveling, and if tonight goes as planned, or if tonight is successful live stream, then I'll be lucky, because I've had a lot of weird quirks with some connection issues. So we'll see. We're going to play it by ear. But thank you so much for joining me. If you can't hear me, or if you just let me know in the comments, say hello, say where you're coming from, or but if you can't hear me or you can't see me, please let me know. That would be super helpful, because as I mentioned, this is the story of my life. I don't get flustered by technical difficulties, but it's, they usually happen at the wrong times. And I've been dealing with some hardware issues as of late, and it apparently has not, apparently haven't solved all the problems. And having traveled all the past 2 weeks, I kind of just came back today and reconnected everything, and so I'm dealing with some of that. I got my camera had a problem. I had to send that back into Canon. They sent it back to me, so I just hooked that up today. So I haven't even dialed in all the settings yet for that. I'm having hardware or a hub issue. My Cal Digit is, I think, the culprit for a lot of problems. So I'm just dealing with a lot of things that are actually causing me to have to restart and redo things. So if tonight goes, if I'm able to complete tonight, then it'll be a small miracle. But anyways, thanks for joining. Tonight I am going to, I thought I would go over Adobe Audition. I did a tutorial recently about how to set up Adobe Audition if you have a RodeCaster Pro. Now I know RodeCaster just came out with the version 2, which I would love to have. I currently do not. I currently only just have the RodeCaster 1. So the original RodeCaster 1 is what I have, which is, I just got it in January basically. So, I'm not going to upgrade to the 2, even though I really want to, because that's just how I am. I don't really need the latest and greatest gear, but I was feeling like I was having trouble with my RodeCaster Pro, and then when they upgraded the new version, I was like, Anyways, it's a long story, but I think some of the older hardware are having trouble being compatible with the M1 Max, which is what my Mac is. So I think there's some compatibility issues, and just annoying trying to deal with all of them. But anyways, so tonight I thought I would go into Adobe Audition and kind of rehash the tutorial that I recently made about how to set up your Adobe Audition to be able to record the individual tracks or the individual channels of your RodeCaster Pro. And I'll show you how to save it out as a template. Now, even if you don't have a RodeCaster Pro, you should still take there should still be some learning lessons in here for you, in terms of just setting up the Adobe Audition multi-track as a template and save it as a template, so you can reuse templates whenever you're recording sessions in Adobe Audition. So if you are a podcaster, if you're doing interviews on Zoom and you want to record individual channels, if you have specifically the RodeCaster, it's that's what I'm going to show you how to do it. But if you have another interface, or if you have a podcast setup that you always use the same tracks or the same setup over and over again, saving your multi-track session as a template is super helpful for your workflow. Just really speeds things up and keeps things very consistent. So I have had a lot of questions recently about Adobe Audition, and a few people having troubles with getting their inputs and outputs in the multi-track. So I thought I would just kind of do a rehash of this setup using the RodeCaster Pro. So my sort of caveat is that if you have the RodeCaster 2 or the RodeCaster Pro 2, so if you just upgrade it to that, there might be some differences because I haven't had a chance to look at their, I know everything changed on the RodeCaster 2, so it looks like an incredible piece of hardware. And I know all the settings changed. I know the interface has changed. So if you are on the 2, it's going to be a different scenario, but hopefully some of the things will still apply to where it'll make sense to you. And the reason I say that is because I did have a question earlier today. Somebody with the RodeCaster 2 was having trouble with their multi-track session and setting things up. So until I have a chance to sort of play around with the RodeCaster 2 and sort of, put it through its paces in terms of how it's set up and how I can set it up in Audition, I can only speculate, and I can probably, if you have questions specific to the RodeCaster 2 or something to Audition, let me know. And if I don't know the answer, if I'm not able to sort of troubleshoot it just from, kind of based on your question, then I would definitely try to find out an answer for you. So again, welcome to everybody who is joining live. If you are watching the replay, thank you for stopping by and watching. I do these every Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, unless I'm out of town or I'm traveling and or my equipment is not working. But it appears to be holding up. I've just had all these things where it might go blank. We're not going to jinx anything. As of now, it's working. If you can't hear me, or if you can't see me, please leave a comment. Let me know. And before I get started, I've been doing this just to sort of let people know, but let's just see here if that's going to show up. So if you're, I feel like I just got super bright. But if you are curious about the stuff that I use in my studio, this is a work in progress. I have a whole bunch of things that I'm working on, trying to get a lot of things out the door. But if you're curious about the equipment that I'm using to live stream, to do podcasting, to make tutorials, to run my business, to do all the things that we do as content creators, if you go to my website, which is mikemurphy.co/resources, hopefully you can see that okay. If you can't, let me just zoom that in a little bit for you. So mikemurphy.co is my main website, and then /resources. And you can always get to that. If you go to the top menu, you will see a resources button right there. And on this page, I try to keep it up to date. I just recently did a kind of full reformatting of everything and just updated everything. I had a lot of old, outdated equipment and stuff that I'm using, so I'm trying to keep this up to date. But on this page, you are going to see here, I have some things here. Here's a podcaster cheat sheet, and this is super helpful if you are a podcaster and you want just sort of an idea. It's not necessarily you have to use everything on this cheat sheet. It's really to give you sort of a starting point of how to keep a podcast cheat sheet for all your directories, all your RSS feed, all the important things about your podcast. I created this cheat sheet in Notion. It's got an 8-page PDF. It's free or donation on Gumroad, but go check that out. But down below, I have all the tools and services that I use for podcasting, for website hosting, tutorial making, the music that I use, all my Adobe Creative Cloud stuff. I have gear listed here. This is all my podcasting and audio gear. Hopefully that one in the top left corner goes into the RodeCaster Pro 2 at some point. But yeah, I have these listed out here, and apologize for my voice. Photo, video, and editing, it's most of the stuff. There's some like little things I don't have, but I did try to include a lot of the like kind of important nuts and bolts and stuff. Tech and accessories, and then these are the cables that I use. So, and some like little adapters and stuff like that. If you look at the very bottom and on the very top, there's a button that says Visit Amazon Shop. If you click on that, that will take you to Amazon, where I have an influencer store. This is going to have the same story, but it's kind of a shortcut to all of the, the gear and stuff that I use. So you can buy it right on Amazon, which is super handy. And I have some other things here. These are going to be updated. The clothes are super outdated. I was putting all sorts of things here. Oops, even that's got a broken link. That's not very helpful to you. I have a little book thing. These are, again, a growing list, but these are some of my staple books that I think are important, or that I just like to, they're kind of go-tos or things that I would recommend to people. So I will be adding to these as I add, but these are sort of some core self-help and business and other stuff that I enjoy. So that's at my Amazon store, which you can get to on the resources page. But yeah, this just has things that I get on Amazon that I use in the studio. And again, I try to keep these up to date. So that's that. Any questions before I go? Okay, oops. We have a blank space here. That's on me. But thank you so much there. I do appreciate you stopping by as always and all the good feedback. Let's try to bring that up a little bit. Thanks so much. And any questions, as always, The War of Art is an incredible book. I feel like I have a ton to pull up there. But what was the other one that, I don't know if I had the other, Stephen Pressfield book on there. I feel like I don't, but War of Art is one of my favorites. This book right here, I learned this on, from Tim Ferriss, and I have to say, he talked about this quite a bit, and I have to say, this was a really impactful book for me. Awareness, I just thought it was incredible. While we're on books, let's go over some books. This is an excellent book if you're kind of in the storytelling realm, the building a story brand. I like the simplicity, or it's very structured, which I respond to. This was an incredible book, so much like that I liked it that I did a whole podcast interview on this book. What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. The Alchemist is one of my all-time favorite books. I've talked to a lot of people that don't like it, but it's a classic and people love it. So I don't think the majority of people don't like it, but I love The Alchemist. Maybe I also walked the Camino de Santiago, so that was inspired by that. This is not a live stream about books, but while we're on it, what the heck? 7 excellent book. These are like some of these books that are sort of classics. You kind of shrug. You might look at them like, that's kind of a woo-woo book, or that's outdated. Some of these books are a little outdated in their examples, but they're still incredible. Like, I love The E-Myth Revisited, and I read that recently, in the last couple of years. Yeah, so this book, this will be growing. I didn't want to put like everything on there. I kind of wanted to just start off and just put some of the classics, some of the things that I just know that I really love. But yeah, you can get to that on my website. Awesome. Good vibes all around. I hope everyone can maintain that forever. Let's pull up here. Let's see what we got here. So I want to get into, let me get into Adobe Audition here. So this is what you see when you open Adobe Audition for the most part. And again, before I kind of get into this, or before I really get too far into this, let me just say that, so this is Audition. If you have questions that even that aren't like directly related to what I'm doing tonight, by all means, leave them in the comment, or any questions you have about anything, leave them in the comments, and I will just kind of go through them as I get them. So tonight, like I said, I was just going to go over some basics of hardware settings, like when you're setting up, or basically how you can create a multi-track session and save that as a template. And I'm going to be using the RodeCaster Pro as an example, because a lot of people have the RodeCaster Pro, and with the new version, it's going to be even better. Again, I'll have to modify it when I get the new one. I'm using the original RodeCaster Pro. But just seeing how to do this in the multi-track of Adobe Audition will hopefully either you learn something, or you'll just get an idea of how you might be able to create templates for your multi-track sessions. I personally use one for podcasting. I've used it since the beginning. Like my podcast is a little bit on stall, but for 100 plus episodes, I had a podcast template in Adobe Audition. So every time I opened up a new multi-track session, I just selected my podcast template. It had the intro, the outro, and all I had to do is just drop in the current recording, and I was pretty much done. So that's what I want to show you today. But the difference is today I'm going to show you how to set up basically the inputs for the RodeCaster Pro. And that will allow you to basically create a new session for the RodeCaster Pro, and it will record each individual channel on the RodeCaster Pro. So when I say channels on the RodeCaster Pro, that means all of these individual channels you can set up as its own track in the multi-track. Save that as a template, so when you are recording, or when you maybe doing a podcast interview and you want to make sure that you record all of the channels on individual tracks so you can adjust them and edit them later, well, you can set up a track for each of these channels, and including the soundboard. You can do it for the the smartphone. Again, the new RodeCaster Pro is going to be a little bit different in that they are not there's some things that are totally different and might be configured, but you should get the general idea. So if we're good, let's move into this a little bit. I am going to go down to, let's just see here. I'll pull up to the top left here. So to create a new multi-track session, I'm going to come up here to the top menu. I can just click on this button here in the top left and create a new multi-track. You can also go to File, New, Multi-Track. And if you're not entirely sure, or not entirely comfortable, I should say, in Adobe Audition, you have two views. There's the Waveform view, which is where we're in right now. This is sort of what you do for individual audio. This is where you would record individual, like if I was just setting up a solo podcast and I want to record some audio, I'd be in the Waveform view typically. You can go in the multi-track, but I typically go in the Waveform view. It's meant for really the one piece of audio. And then the multi-track is where you basically have multiple tracks where you can assemble multiple clips of audio or tracks of audio, and but you can also record into the multi-track, which is going to be sort of the finished product of today. And let me just see here if this is pulling up. So a very cool shortcut, has nothing to do with today's tutorial, but if you press the Option key or Alt, so if you don't see any levels, you see those levels on the very bottom of the screen, or there should be levels indicating that my microphone is going into the channel correctly. If you don't see the levels, Option or Alt, if you're on a PC, tap on I, and that will basically enable the levels down below. So it's a good shortcut to know, but it You'll also see it right here under the View menu at the very bottom. There's metering, and you'll see here at the very top. Option I is the keyboard shortcut. If I click that, you'll see the levels disappear. If I go back, View, Metering, Meter Input Signal, that just tells me, all right, my mic is working. So if you don't see any levels and you're like, uh-oh, I thought I had everything set up right, why don't I see anything? Option I or Alt I, now you got levels. Okay, so this is the waveform view. The multi-track is the one next to it. There's also keyboard shortcuts, 9 for waveform, 0 for multi-track. I'm going to click on this multi-track button, or again, go to File, New, Multi-track, or Command N is the keyboard shortcut. Command N will bring up the multi-track session. So I'm going to call this RCP. Let me just make sure. I might have that one already saved. Yeah, I do have one already saved, but we're going to skip that. And I'm just going to click on, I'm going to keep all these the same, default. Give your location for your multi-track session. I am saving it to the desktop. I'm just going to click OK, and that is going to open up our multi-track session. Okay, so this is where in the multi-track session, in the multi-track session, you're going to basically set what you want each channel to be, or you can just drag audio right onto the tracks. But before we set all this up, we need to go up to the top menu here. So we need to go up to, and I feel like I just skipped around. So any questions or anything comes up, let me know. But before we do anything, we're going to come up here to the top menu. See the Audition menu. You can't see it because it's on the top of my screen, but that's basically the Audition preferences. And you're going to come down here to Audio Hardware. Okay. On the left side, if you selected audio hardware, it will automatically be selected, but here are all the preferences in case you did not select audio hardware at the beginning. And then what we're looking for right here is the default input and the default output, okay? Now the default output, or the input is what's going into Adobe Audition. So your microphone connected to your audio interface, it's your interface that the interface that you want to use, or what audio piece of hardware do you want to use to go into Adobe Audition. If you're using a USB mic, then that would be different. But if you have an audio interface, that is the input, what is going into Adobe Audition. So we want to use the RodeCaster Pro multi-channel because we want to be able to select individual channels in Adobe Audition. And the output is just what you hear. So what output do you want to hear? So in our case, I don't want Ecamm Live. I want RodeCaster Pro. So I want the RodeCaster. So now what I hear is going to be going through the RodeCaster Pro. So these headphones are plugged into my RodeCaster Pro. Okay? Click OK. If for some reason you don't have multi-channel, so if you go into Adobe Hardware Preferences, so Adobe Hardware, if you click on this and it says stereo, you don't see multi-channel, that is because you don't have it set up for multi-channel on the RodeCaster Pro. Again, here is where it's going to be a little bit different when if you have the RodeCaster 2. From what I understand, it's probably, well, I know it's different, but I don't know exactly what to tell you to do at this point. But I'm going to tell you, let's just jump in here. Let me come down here and pull this. So I want to pull this up, get rid of me. So basically what I want to do is, if we come up here, it's going to be hard for you to see, but I wanted to just try to get as best as I could. You know what? Let me just do this while we're having fun here. I can't zoom up anymore that I'm aware of. I can get it pretty close. Okay, so you should be able to see that. So in order to set up the multi-channel on your RodeCaster Pro, all you have to do is click on the gear icon. You're going to go to Advanced. I'm doing this blindly, so if I make a mistake, you're going to go into Audio. Top left, you see Multi-track. And just check on USB. Let me go back out of this. Should have done this before. I'm backing up to the very beginning. Advanced. Audio. Multi-track. And just check on that it's checked, that it's enabled. Okay, so that should give you, when you go into Adobe Hardware, so when you go back into here, let me get out of here. When you go back into Adobe Hardware at the top, the RodeCaster multi-channel should be available to you. Okay. Any questions? Anything that I'm losing, buddy? Okay. So now that we know that we have the hardware set up, we have enabled it in the RodeCaster Pro, we've checked in the hardware settings of Adobe Audition in the preferences, so we have the RodeCaster Pro ready to go. Now when you're in your multi-track session, you're going to come over to each track. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Let me try to zoom into one of these tracks so you can see it a little bit closer. So I'm zoomed way into one of these tracks. If you're confused of where I'm at, let me just back out a little bit. So you see here, we got the left side. I'm just zooming into this area right here, okay? So let me zoom back in so you can see it. If you look at these buttons at the very top, let me just make sure you can really see it. Okay. So if you look at these buttons at the very top here, this first one right here that you see, it says inputs and outputs. The cursor is covering it a little bit, but that's inputs and outputs. So if you're on any other one, you're not going to see that. So you want to make sure you're on this inputs and outputs. And that is, if you look at the arrows, the one to the right is saying that's the input. This is going into Adobe Audition. And this is, we're just really focusing on this input right here, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to go down your RodeCaster. So we're going to go by these one by one. So you're just going to go on each of these channels and you're going to set up a track for each channel, okay? So just think about each track that you're seeing here. This is track 2. I don't know what happened to track 1, but let me see if I moved up. No, there's track 1. Wonder what happened to track 1. So each track is just going to be a track or a channel on your RodeCaster Pro. So you just start on the left side of your RodeCaster Pro and just go to the very end, and you will see when you select the inputs. So if I click on this little drop down, watch what happens. If I go in the mono, I have all of these RodeCaster Pros. If I go into stereo, you're going to see left because the stereo is going to take, they're going to combine them. So you're only going to see, you know, this is going to be the main out. This is going to be the first mic. So it's combining the two channels. When you're using microphones, you want to make sure that you choose the mono option. And you'll see here, this left and right. We're going to choose the stereo for the first one. That's going to be the main output of your RodeCaster Pro. So you want that in, you know, the main channel. But as you go down the channels, when you get to the, you know, track 1, track 2, track 3, those are all going to be, you're going to choose mono for the microphones. And then when you go into the USB, the other ones, you can choose stereo and just choose, you see USB left, the TRRS, that's the little, what you'd plug into your iPhone or smartphone, the Bluetooth left, sounds left. So these are all going to be in stereo, and then the mono, we'll just choose mic 1, mic 2, mic 3, and mic 4. Easy? Hopefully it is. Let me just see if there's any questions here about anybody. Take a little sip here. So I don't totally go crazy. Let me just show you. Hopefully this doesn't mess things up. So I'm going to go to, let me zoom out here so you can get a better view. I'm going to go into full screen here. If I went up to the multi-track and went to File, New, Multi-track, I already have a RodeCaster Pro template made. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to select the template that I've already made. And I probably screwed up. It's not going to work. Let me just see here. Never do it live, never do it live. I assumed it was done, but I may have deleted this, but let's just see. Oh, it worked. Okay, so if you look here, I thought for some reason I might have. I do so much testing and so many things for tutorials, I end up just moving things around. But so if you look here, I have, this is the RodeCaster Pro template that I previously made, and we'll redo it so you see how it is. It's missing, so it's actually screwing up because I changed I reset everything. So that's not going to help you, but I do have these all set up by each track, and we're just going to redo this now and start over from scratch because I just backfired my little plan of showing you. No worries at all. So I'm going to go to File, New, Multi-track, RodeCaster Pro, Template. I'm going to choose None so I don't open that other one. And now we're just going to go back to the beginning. Okay? I'm going to add stereo. So we need stereo. I need a I feel like I might be losing some people, so let me just kind of just slow down a little bit and make sure everybody's caught up because I'm a little bit talking out loud. I tried to do something that I thought was going to be helpful, but it's actually not going to help you. So we're going to make a track for each track on the RodeCaster, right? So we know that. So if I come down here to the RodeCaster, we want to make a track in the Adobe Audition for each one of these, okay? So in the main one, that's your main output. That's going to be the one that you have basically all of the channels go out to. That's going to be the stereo mix of the RodeCaster, which is sort of the default output. If you have a mixer or your interface, typically everything will come out unless you have a multi-channel capability, which we do. But typically you're going to export. That's going to see these right here, these left-right channels. That's kind of the main out of the RodeCaster Pro. But with the multi-channel option, you can also record the individual tracks, which we're going to set up. So track 1, this is a microphone, 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 USB, smartphone or TRRS, Bluetooth, and then the sound bank. Okay, so we're making a track for each of these. So there's 4 mono tracks, 1, 2, 3, and 4 stereo tracks. So if I look here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need to add 2 tracks. To do so, I'm going to go up to, let me get this screen out of here so it's not distracting. I'm going to go up here and go to multi-track, tracks. And we don't have to do this right now, but I'm just going to add them while we're here. And I'm going to add, let me see if I can add, I'll come down here and add tracks since I want to add multiple tracks. I want to add 2 tracks, and I want them to be stereo. So now we have all the tracks. It looks like I brought them below. No problem. I'm just going to click and drag them. Did you know you could do that in Adobe Audition? You can change the order. You probably knew that, but if you didn't, you can change the order by just clicking over here. You'll see the cursor turns into a hand tool, and you can just drag the tracks any order you want. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is just basically rename each track. We're gonna select the input for each track, and then we're just going to save them all as a template. Easy as that. So we are here in the multi-track. To rename a track, all you have to do is just double click on it, or click once right on the name in the top left. We'll call this stereo. How about we just go, since it'll be easier for you to see, left, right, mix. So that's going to be the full output of the RodeCaster Pro. Left, right, RodeCaster Pro. I don't know. Call it something. Track 2 is going to be microphone 1, mic 1. That's my SM7B. Oop. Mic 2 for track 3. Mic 4, 3. Count. Mic 4. So we've got the 4 mono mics. Now we're going to do USB. USB. We've got the TRRS. That's going to be your smartphone jack, or you can plug in other things. And the last one, oops, we need to add one more track, don't we? Bluetooth. And we need to add a stereo track. So I'm going to add track. Add stereo track. We're going to call this one sounds. This is the sound pads. Okay. Whoops, you couldn't see what I was doing. My goodness, sorry about that. So basically I just went through all of these right here and just clicked and renamed them. So we have mic 1, 2, 3, 4, USB, TRRS, Bluetooth, the sound pads, that's the last one, and then we have the, in the multi-track there's always going to be a mix track at the very bottom, so you can't do anything with that. That's just going to be where all the tracks automatically go into. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to go through each of these one by one and change the inputs for them. And I'm going to come down here and just zoom you in so you can see that a little bit better. So make sure you're on the inputs. That's this one right here. So it's the one with the left and right arrows. In goes this way. Out goes the other way. And if you don't see them, just use your scroll wheel and your mouse to kind of make the track just a little bit bigger. You can also pull down a little bit if you're not seeing them. But you're looking for the little arrow facing to the right, indicating the input. And this is the left-right channel. So this is the main stereo mix on your RodeCaster. I'm going to click this. I'm going to go to stereo, and I'm going to choose multi-channel left. Okay? And you're saying, how do I know if it works? Well, you can arm this for record by clicking on the R. If I click on that, if you see levels, then that means that you have done it right, basically. That means that this is my microphone is going through, hopefully you can see this. So see these right here on the RodeCaster Pro, the left right channels are on the right of the screen. That's the main output. So any inputs or any audio going through the RodeCaster Pro is going to be on these left-right channels. So that is indicating that we have successfully basically set the right input for that channel. Okay? And now we're just going to go through these one by one. So this is my microphone right here. So let me see if I have another one too. I'm just arming myself for the other one. So this is my SM7B. That's plugged into channel 1. Channel 1 on the RodeCaster Pro is this one. Let's see. You can't really see it, but let me see if I can. Well, I've got it a little bit messed up right now, but anyways, that's channel 1, which is the first one. And to set the input, I'm just going to come up here. We're looking for that little arrow. I'm going to click. Remember, microphones are mono. So click mono. Mic 1. I'm going to click on the arm for record. And we have levels. So it is picking up my Shure SM7B. Okay. Let's do mic 2. So I have this microphone right here is the Shure SM58 classic microphone. Looks like I'm zoomed way in on myself. Don't need it that much. So this is the Shure SM58. It is plugged into channel 2 on the RodeCaster Pro. So what I'm going to do is come down here to microphone 2. I could also just name this by double clicking on it. I could call this SM58. Or you might want to do like channel 2. I think mic 2 is probably your safest bet, quite honestly, just so you can glance at your template and say, oh, that's a microphone. But name these whatever you want. So mic 2, SM58. I'm going to click on this little arrow here. Remember, microphones, mono. Go to mono. This is microphone 2. That's channel 2. I'm going to click on the arm for record. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. I've got no levels. Why don't I have it? I'm going to mute my... Why don't I have any levels? Well, because I have no... I'll show you. Because I do not have the volume slider on channel 2. So I'm just going to drag up slider. And now you see that I should have. Let me just make sure I have the right one selected. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. This may not be plugged in, so oh, it's on track 3. So that's a really good learning point though. So I plugged in thinking this was plugged into channel 2, but I'm looking now and it's actually on channel 3. So if you don't see levels in your arm for record and you think you have it right, well, see what just happened? That was a great learning moment by accident. So I'm going to change this to mic 2. I'm going to move this up so you can see it a little bit better. So we have mic 2. This is not, the SM58 is on mic 3. So I'm just going to click on mic 3. I'll rename this SM58 just so I can keep this kind of easy to remember. I'm going to click on mono, mic 3. I still don't have, oh, I got to arm it for record. I still don't see anything. That's because the levels are down. So I need to move these levels up. As I move the levels up, I'm going to see the levels on my RodeCaster. Am I seeing them? Am I seeing them? It's really funny. It's in channel 4, but I'm going to move it to channel 3 because this is taking too long. That's crazy. I don't know why it's on channel 4 because I mess around with things so much. That's why. So it's on channel 3 now. I'm going to move the levels. So just so you can see it. So I'm going to move the levels up. I mute it. We should be seeing things. I'm seeing levels coming up on the RodeCaster Pro. So here we go. Here we go. You should be hearing that. And if you look at the levels on the in the multi-track, you can see that the levels are going. Pretty cool, right? So if you want me to use this microphone, I am currently using the Shure SM58. Hopefully you can hear that okay. And this is on channel 3 now. I thought it was on 2, then I thought it was on 3. It was really on 4, but it is on 3 now. And so that is now, you can see the levels since we armed it for recording in microphone 3. I'm going to go back to this mic now. So now I'm on the SM7B, which you can see the levels bouncing up and down on this track. Oops. Hopefully I didn't just delete that. I meant to be in RodeCaster. So you can see the levels right here are on the SM7B track. If I was to go to the SM58 and start recording that, you can see here that it's going to show up in the multi-track of Adobe Audition. So now I have the master track of Audition or of RodeCaster on this one at the very top. I have my SM7B going into this track 1. And then on the mic 3, I have the SM58. Hopefully this is making sense. I know it could be confusing the way I'm bouncing around and feeling like I'm not in my flow zone, but hopefully it's making sense. You know, when you travel and you get back and you're playing catch up with everything. That's what today was like. So not making a big excuse, but that is the reason for my dishevelment a little bit. So basically all you're going to do is just go down the line and choose the things that you want to, or choose the inputs and outputs. So mic 4, you're going to come in here, click the inputs, outputs, microphone, mono. Click mono, choose mic 4. If I click arm to record, nothing's going to happen because I have no microphone plugged into that. Okay? Let's go down to the USB. So I'll bring this up a little bit so we can see the bottom here. So I'm going to go into the USB track. That's going to be the audio coming in from your computer. So if you're playing a YouTube video or something on your computer, that will play through the RodeCaster Pro. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go to stereo this time. And I'm going to choose USB left. So it's making it really easy. You should be able to, see what we're got going on. If I click on the arm to record, I don't have anything playing through that right now. So you're not going to see anything. But that is basically, if I'm capturing audio from something on my computer that I want to go through the RodeCaster Pro, then it will record on its own track, which is pretty cool. So let's move down here to the TRRS. I'm going to click on the little default output. I'm going to choose stereo. I'm going to choose TRRS left. TRRS is the ones if you have a smartphone, iPhone, Android phone, and you want to plug it in. It's basically the little 1/8 inch male adapter, the one with the small one, not the 1/4 inch, which is the bigger one. You're going to plug that in. That's going to allow you to connect your smartphone directly into the RodeCaster Pro or other devices that have a TRRS. Let me see if I have. Yeah, I was going to try to show you it. The TRRS, I can't really show it to you. I was going to try to, but that has the 2 black rings around it. That's how you know it's a TRRS. I just unplugged it. Hopefully it doesn't make any difference. I don't think I have anything plugged in to it right now, so it shouldn't make a difference. And then we'll go down to the Bluetooth. We're going to select the default input, go to stereo, select Bluetooth, and the last one is the sound pads. That's ones you can get little, if you want to do little sound pads. If you want to play them, I'll show you. We'll do a little test here. So I'm going to go to sounds. I'm going to click on default input, stereo, sounds left. I'm I'm going to arm that for record. I'm going to arm these other ones for record too, just because when you reopen the template, they'll be armed for record. In theory, there are times when things get reset in Audition. I notice that things get a little wonky. So not everything always goes to plan. Since we're live, it's probably not going to. That's the rule of thumb that I live by. But we're going to arm all these for record, and I'll explain a few other things in just a second. So in this last one, sounds, we've already selected stereo sounds. We're going to arm it for recording. Nothing's happening now because we don't have any sounds. So if I click on this,
Nice.
So you see I have, and you can change, different settings or, levels, but you can see here that I'm playing the sound pads. You couldn't see that. So here's the sound pad. If I click on this one right here, let's see. I don't even know what it is. A woof. How about if I click this one? So now you're hearing the phone ring. And if you look at the levels, you can tell that it is working, or that it's connected to the sound panel, because you're getting levels. So what we did, in a sense, is, the reason for doing this is basically we have all these tracks now. So when you're about to do a big interview that's super important, and you have all these different, you want to record all these, or maybe a presentation that you're doing, and you have everything going into multiple channels on the RodeCaster Pro. Well, once you press record, basically everything that is armed for record and has input going in, it's just going to get recorded in Adobe Audition. So you're recording everything on its own track, and it's also going to record everything as one track. So maybe you don't want to split everything later. Maybe you're just happy with the one. Well, you're going to get that stereo mix, and you're also going to get all the individual tracks of the RodeCaster Pro, which is pretty handy. So as you're seeing levels, that just is indicating that there is audio actually going into the RodeCaster Pro when you see levels on your RodeCaster Pro. So when you look up and you see bouncing levels up there, anytime you see bouncing levels, it should correspond inside of Adobe Audition, which means that when you press record, those tracks and that audio is going to be captured. All right. So we basically, before we save this out, when you're creating a template in Adobe Audition, when you add things such as effects or, any change that you're sort of making to the tracks before you save it as a template is going to get saved in the template, which is very helpful to know. So if you are making a template and you want to, let's just say that, you want on the stereo track, you always want it to have, an EQ, you want to have like a low or high pass filter or something like that, and you want to add dynamics. So you're going to add compression, you're going to add dynamics, maybe just do the default compressor. I'm not really going to set anything up, so I'm just really showing you. But when you add effects, or if you make changes to the audio levels, maybe you that you don't want your sound pads to be loud, so you want them to be super low. Maybe you want to add some reverb on them. Whatever you do in terms of, how you want your session. So what you typically would do is, create your podcast or your template beforehand the way you want it. Add your effects. Add the things that you think you're going to redo over and over again. And then you save it as a template. After you've sort of finished with everything is when you really want to save it as a template. Because what you want to do is all the work that you've already done inside of this multi-track session, you want to save it out as a template so you can just reopen it every time you are ready for a new recording of that same style, and all the effects, all the volume controls that you've used, or anything you've done to modify those tracks is going to be saved into that template. And when you open a new template, it is going to open up with those applied settings or with those, things already in place. So it's really a shortcut. And again, you sort of want to do it. You kind of want to set up your multi-track in the completed format for the most part. You could even add audio if you know that you always want the specific type of audio. You can just add them to the track, and they will save in that template. So super helpful and super handy to create templates, which is kind of the whole purpose of tonight. But I thought that I would do it with this RodeCaster Pro since I had just recently done that, and I was been getting questions about it lately. But I would typically tell you for sure, if you are podcasting or if you're doing any type of recordings, that you have music on the intros and the outros, or maybe you have, a placement for ads that you always put at the same spot, or just something that's over, like a structure that you're going to be using over and over again. Save that as a template. And you can have multiple templates, so you don't have to just save one. But I just really wanted to make sure that you knew that you could, save these type things. So now that we have everything in place here, I'm going to come up here and go to File. I'm going to go to the Export. Let me zoom in just a little bit to make sure you see. So let me just, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Let's go. I don't want to zoom in too much so you can't see. So what I'm doing is going to the top menu, go to File, Export, and then you're looking for Session as Template. Okay. Here you're going to name your template. Okay. So you see here I've already got one called Template. And it looks like the one that I'd saved previously for mine is gone. So I just did a refresh of everything. So everything kind of went factory settings on me. So I was going to pull up mine so you could see it, but it's appearing as though it's not working. But that's okay. RCP. So RodeCaster Pro. We'll just call it RCP. I want to just make sure I don't duplicate it. Template. I'm going to check this box here to include markers and metadata. You see it gets saved in a session templates folder. So this is going to be kind of on its own directory. So you don't have to worry about remembering where it is. And you're going to click OK. Okay. I'm going to close all. I'm going to go to File, New, Multi-Track Session. I'm going to pull this up so you can see it. Now here you can give it a name of your multi-track session. RCP Demo. Choose where you want to save it. And then you're looking for right here is Template. You're going to click on this. And that is the one that we just saved, the RCP1 template. You see here, the sample rate, the bit depth, and the mix, they disappeared. So those were because I already set up that multi-track set template with those set. So if those need to change, you need to go back and basically restart a new template or change those before you save it out as a template, because those are just basically saying, yeah, you've already done these. That was saved in the template. Okay. Click OK. And now, just like that, that thing that I deleted the effects. I should have kept those on just to prove that they would have stayed. But had I kept those EQ and compression down here, they would have been there. But as you can see here, when I open up that template that we just saved, all of the tracks are there. They have the same name. They're all armed for recording because I set those to arm for record. And the reason I armed them for recording was because if you're creating a new template, you don't want to forget to record one, or to, have one of the tracks record. Or you might know that you never want to record one track. You don't have to arm them, but that just is basically a foolproof way of saying they're all ready to go. So if I press the record button down here, like let's just say that my Zoom call or whatever you're using to do your podcast interview, when I click on the record button, now you see that all of the tracks are recording any place that I have audio. So I'll turn on mic 2. So, or mic 3, I think it is. So now I'm on the SM58, and you can see here, if you look at this track right here, that's the SM58. You see the audio. Now if you look at the SM7B, it's quiet up here. So this is really recording in live time, and anything that I play through, so if I play some, so now I'm playing some music, and we're going to see that down on the sound one. The volume's a little bit low on that one, so I would turn that up. I just don't want to blast you out, but so that is, I'm going to stop this now. So you can see here that we just basically, if you were doing some type of interview, you're able to record every single thing that is going through your RodeCaster Pro or your audio interface or whatever you're doing, and everything is configured and saved in this template. So when you start a new one, you don't have to go through and reset all the default inputs and outputs and name them. They're already named in the template. So that is basically knowing how to go to basically anything you do in the multi-track that you want to save as a template, such as you're creating a podcast episode. Let me see if I have, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but we'll see. So here I have a, let me just see here. Oh, that is not the keyboard shortcut I was looking for. I'm going to show you my passwords while I'm here. Sorry about that. Let's just see here. Why did this? So here is I don't think that you're going to be able to see it in this view, so let me just back out a little bit. I'm going to move this screen right here. So this is you're not going to see that. So this is one of my episodes where I have an intro, I have the track on top, I have an outro. It's kind of hard to see right now, but let me just it's not helping you, but I want to make sure you can see everything. But if I wanted to save this as a template, I would just go to File, Export. Where are you? Session as template. For the name, Mike, episode 157. I would never do it for my entire podcast episode, which I typically do, but I'm just noticing tonight that it was saved over. I did that kind of when I reset everything, but I click OK. Notice that I have audio tracks on this one. I'm going to close all. No, I don't want to save anything, so I have nothing. Adobe Audition, I just opened it. I'm ready to record a new podcast interview or a new podcast episode. I'm going to go to the new multi-track session. Let me just zoom in here so you can see. Okay, so I'm going to go to the template. I'm going to go to mic. That's just so I know that this isn't real. And all this is ready to go. You can't see anything because you're zoomed way in. But when I zoom back out, you're going to see here that now I have everything from that episode already on the multi-track. Now, if I'm basically, I have my intro, audio that I use for every podcast. I have that in the beginning. I have the outro music here at the end. So it's in place. It's at the right timing. It's the way they want it. If I have compression and EQ, and you see here I have a fade on the audio that I want every time that I have a new episode. Now, when I record a new dialogue, I would delete that top track because I don't want the same dialogue, or I don't want the old dialogue in that. You see here, I just selected it, and I'm just going to delete that dialogue. But I do want the intro and outro music, or any special effects, or sound effects, or anything that you use. Again, any track effects that you're going to apply to these tracks, you want those in the same place for every podcast episode. So all you have to do is just save it as a template, and every time you open up a new session, you are ready to go. So that is how to save as a template. Hopefully you've got some something out of this, for even if you are not using the, even if you're like, well, I don't have a RodeCaster Pro, what is that going to help me? What I'm really hoping you take away is the fact that when you are working in Adobe Audition, when you're recording or setting things up in the multi-track is where you assemble tracks of multiple clips of audio. So interviews, if you have a guest, it'll be your track, a guest track, intro music or outro music. If you have little sound bites or little sound effects that you add, all of those go on individual tracks. You save that out as a template. Then the next time you open a template, you can just replace the dialogue tracks with the new dialogue, but keep all the other stuff that is always in the same place, intro, outro. Sometimes you have to shuffle things around. If your audio, your dialogue track is a little bit longer or shorter, you might have to move the outro, to correspond. But that is truly a, saving things as a session in Adobe Audition is invaluable stuff. So hopefully you got something out of that. And any questions that you do have, or if you're not sure about anything that I was talking about, or you're just saying this went right over my head because you were rambling around, or you were, not clear about things. I just got a message saying that my stream quality was lowered. I don't know why. I pay for super fast internet, and but yeah, so any questions you have for me, but anytime you can leave a comment on any video. I will always get back to you, usually as fast as possible. And I thank you for joining me tonight. I thank you for joining me every Monday night, or if you're watching on the replay, I thank you for stopping by to check it out. Hopefully you got some tips or something that you didn't know before tonight and every night. That's always my goal, and I hope to see you next Monday and every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. My name is Mike Murphy. Cheers. I may never leave. I may never